I knew things had gone too far the moment I watched the president of our HOA march across my lawn, swing open my gate like she owned the place, and dump an entire bucket of ice water straight onto my pregnant wife. And the worst part, she smiled while doing it like she was adjusting a flower pot, not assaulting a vulnerable woman. That single moment, that cold splash, was when I realized my neighborhood wasn't a community. It was a kingdom. And Vivica Drummond thought she was queen. My name is Derek Fontaine, and I thought buying a home in Maple Ridge Estates would be the beginning of our family's happiest chapter. Quiet streets, well-kept lawns, a spotless little lake at the south entrance. It looked like an ad for suburban paradise. And after years of apartment hopping, my wife Celeste and I were finally ready to settle down. She was 29 weeks pregnant with twins, exhausted but excited. The kind of excited that makes you forgive the nausea and swollen feet and nights of no sleep. She wanted calm. She needed calm. And the realtor had sworn this place was peaceful. That was before I met Vivica. The first time she approached us, she didn't even say hello. She pointed at the portable folding chairs we had set in the backyard while waiting for our patio furniture to arrive. Those, she said, frowning like they were toxic waste, are a violation of Community Aesthetic Standard 4B. Temporary furnishings must not be visible from neighboring lots. I actually laughed, thinking she was kidding. She didn't laugh back. She handed me a printed violation slip, yes, printed, and walked away like she'd just delivered a court summons. I brushed it off. New neighborhood, new rules. Whatever. But then came the second visit. And the third. And the fourth. Each time a new violation. Our recycling bin was too close to the curb. My toolbox was visible from the driveway for more than 30 minutes. A bird feeder. Celeste hung because she loved Cardinal's unauthorized wildlife attractor. Still, I tried to be patient. I didn't want stress affecting my wife. Her doctor had warned us her blood pressure was creeping upward. Any kind of emotional strain, he'd said, could push her into dangerous territory. So I bit my tongue, paid the stupid fines, and kept the peace. Until the day peace broke. It happened on a warm Saturday morning. Celeste was sitting on the front porch, one hand on her belly, trying to ease the pressure on her back. I was inside on a video call with an electrician discussing an outlet issue. The windows were open. I could hear birds, the faint lawnmower from 2 houses down, and then suddenly, shouting. I stepped outside to see Vivica standing over Celeste, arms crossed tight, face pinched like she smelled something rotten. "You're obstructing the visual uniformity of the frontage," she snapped. Celeste blinked. "I'm sitting on my own porch. That bench is not HOA approved. And you," she jabbed a manicured finger toward my wife, "are occupying common visual space." "She's pregnant," I said, stepping between them. "She's just getting some air." Vivica scoffed. "Pregnancy isn't an exemption from standards." Before I could respond, she walked back down my steps, picked up the bucket she'd brought, why she even had it, I still don't know, and marched right back toward Celeste. I opened my mouth to stop her, but she moved faster than I expected. She tipped the bucket forward, water cascading down like a sheet of ice splashing across Celeste's belly, her legs the porch floor. My wife gasped, a sharp, brittle sound. She grabbed her stomach, eyes wide with shock, lips trembling. "What the hell is wrong with you?" I shouted. Vivica simply placed the empty bucket down like she had completed a household chore. "Perhaps this will encourage her to comply with the standards," she said, turning away with a smirk. I rushed to Celeste, her hands shaking, her breathing uneven. That was the moment her blood pressure monitor, she had to wear a portable one, began to beep wildly. I felt something inside me crack. I carried her inside, wrapped her in blankets, and called her doctor. Meanwhile, I documented everything. Photos, timestamps, a video captured by our doorbell camera. I thought that would be enough. Surely the HOA board would act once they knew their president had attacked a pregnant woman. I was wrong. When I reported the incident, the board responded with a one-sentence email. "The situation appears to have been an unfortunate accident." Accident. A bucket deliberately lifted, angled, and poured on my wife. An accident. Then Vivica escalated. She filed a complaint against me for hostile behavior, said I threatened her. I hadn't even raised my voice until after she dumped the water. But we all know how these things go. Wealthy, influential, deeply entrenched HOA queen versus new guy. 2 days later, I got an official notice from the HOA. My access to shared community spaces was now restricted pending investigation. They treated me like I was the danger. Meanwhile, my wife couldn't sleep. Every little noise outside sent her into another panic. Her doctor warned me her stress levels were climbing too high. "She needs stability," he said, looking me dead in the eye. "Or you risk an early delivery. At 29 weeks, that's not where you want to be." I felt helpless. I was supposed to protect her. Instead, I was losing to a woman obsessed with power she shouldn't even have. There were moments late at night when my mind spiraled. What if I made everything worse by fighting back? What if I should have just played along from the beginning? What if by standing up to Vivica, I was putting my family in danger? I seriously considered selling the house, packing up, leaving Maple Ridge Estates and this nightmare behind. But one night, as I was sitting on the edge of our bed, head in my hands, Celeste whispered, "Please don't give up. Not yet." She pulled out a small plastic bag. Inside were 2 little knitted baby booties, lavender and mint green. Her mother made them before she passed. "They deserve a safe home," she said, "not one controlled by someone like her." That was the shift, the moment where fear turned into fire. I wasn't going to run. I wasn't going to let this woman bully us into silence. I began digging. And when you dig in a place like Maple Ridge, a place manicured too perfectly, you find rot. A neighbor whose name I won't reveal for their privacy approached me one evening as I was checking the mailbox. They said quietly, "You're not the first." Then they handed me a slip of paper with 3 numbers, case numbers from past residents who had filed complaints about Vivica. All 3 complaints had mysteriously disappeared after review. 2 homeowners eventually moved away. One got divorced from the stress. This wasn't a one-time issue. It was a pattern, a system, a cultivated empire of intimidation. And now Vivica had gone after someone vulnerable. That opened doors she couldn't control. Because HOA boards, for all their power, are still subject to state housing regulations. And I happen to know those regulations inside out from my years auditing compliance. I filed a complaint with the State Housing Regulatory Office. Not a neighborhood complaint, not a civil mediation request. A formal state-level grievance citing safety negligence, abuse of authority, and retaliation. The kind of complaint that triggers audits, unannounced investigations, interviews with everyone from board members to residents. 3 days later, the inspectors arrived. A silver sedan pulled up to the community clubhouse. 2 officials stepped out. No smiles, no clipboards, just badges and a quiet intensity I recognized people used to uncovering ugly truths. They began immediately. Board meeting minutes, financial records, violation logs, surveillance footage from the day of the water incident. They requested interviews with residents, including Celeste, who sat trembling but determined as she told them everything. And then Vivica showed up, wearing a pastel suit, pearl necklace, hair perfect. She strutted into the clubhouse like she expected applause. Instead, she found 2 inspectors sitting with the HOA vice president reviewing documents, and me sitting quietly in the corner. She froze. "Why is he here?" she snapped. "Mr. Fontaine is a complainant," the inspector said calmly. Vivica glanced at me, her expression full of venom. "You think you can destroy my reputation because your wife can't handle simple rules? Simple rules don't include waterboarding." "Pregnant women," I said. Her face twisted. "It was an accident." The inspector tapped a tablet. "Your neighbor's security footage shows no evidence of slipping, and your daughter's statement contradicts your account." For the first time since I'd met her, Vivica's confidence cracked. She opened her mouth closed. It glanced around the room as if hoping someone would step in. Nobody did. Another inspector entered carrying a folder. "We've completed our preliminary findings." Everyone turned toward him. "We've identified multiple violations: abuse of authority, failure to follow incident reporting procedures, targeted harassment, and deliberate suppression of prior complaints. Effective immediately, the president of the Maple Ridge HOA is suspended pending further action." Vivica stepped back like she'd been slapped. "Suspended? You can't suspend me. I built this community." "No, the inspector said you controlled it. There's a difference." She lunged toward the table, pointing accusingly at me. "This man, he's manipulating you. He threatened me. The inspector raised a hand. We reviewed footage of every interaction between you two. We found zero evidence supporting your allegations." Her mouth hung open. The inspector continued, "Additionally, based on your actions toward Mrs. Fontaine, we are recommending a protective order restricting you from contact with the family or proximity to their home." Vivica shook her head slowly in disbelief. "You can't do this. You don't understand who I know." "We understand exactly who you are," the inspector replied, "and that is why we're here." The room went silent. Then the HOA vice president, who had been quiet until now, cleared his throat and said, "Vivica, please turn in your access badge." She stared at him, betrayal flashing across her face, like she expected loyalty, obedience, fear. But there was none left. Not now. Not after everything she'd done had been laid bare. I watched her slowly open her designer purse, pull out the HOA badge she'd worn like a crown, and place it on the table. Her hand trembled. For a split second I saw not a villain, but a woman watching the collapse of an empire she thought was untouchable. She whispered, "This isn't over." The inspector responded, "It is." Vivica's eyes flickered to me one last time, sharp, hateful, defeated, before she turned and stormed out of the building. Her heels echoed sharply across the hardwood floor until the sound faded completely. And just like that, the Queen of Maple Ridge Estates fell. The inspectors continued their work. I answered a few final questions. Celeste waited for me outside, holding the baby booties her mother made, the ones that had become a symbol of everything we were fighting for. I didn't feel triumphant, just steady, finally steady. Because sometimes justice isn't loud. Sometimes it's the sound of doors closing behind someone who thought they'd never be held accountable. And the lesson I learned is simple. Bullies only win when good people stop pushing back.